the whole premise, and believe me, I was the same way, believing in this buyer's journey and all this stuff. And I finally realized there's no such thing as a buyer's journey. It's just some fancy buzzword we've all been repeating. No buyer's journey exists. The only thing that exists is the buyer's experience. And as every human being is a consumer, we all know what that means. It's about the experience that you're having. We go to the same places because of the trusted experience or the pricing experience or something like that. It has nothing to do with any buyer's journey. So the only journey that exists is the seller's journey, which is created in a business world often by sales and marketing, right? That's what I'm talking about. So there's no such thing as a buyer's journey, in my opinion.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Brynne Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Making Sales Social. I have a really great guest today, Richard Harris, trademarked, and we're going to ask him a little bit about that. But he is the number one Amazon best-selling author of The Seller's Journey, your guidebook to closing more deals with neat selling. So we're going to talk to Richard a little bit about that today. And I've got some questions. So Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm prepared with some really deep dive questions around the book and around some sales questions around pipeline and revenue and sales cycles. So before we jump into all of that fun stuff, I ask all of my guests one question, which is, what does making sales social mean to you?
It means giving in a social way more than you are taking. It's like making more deposits in the bank than you do withdrawal.
Oh, I love that. Simple, yet very compelling. So, I am really excited about this book. The seller's journey. We hear all about the buyer's journey, right? Everywhere we turn, people are talking about the buyer's journey. So first, tell us a little bit about why you wrote a book on the seller's journey.
So the whole premise, and believe me, I was the same way, believing in this buyer's journey and all this stuff. And I finally realized there's no such thing as a buyer's journey. It's just some fancy buzzword we've all been repeating. No buyer's journey exists. The only thing that exists is the buyer's experience. And as every human being is a consumer, we all know what that means. It's about the experience that you're having. We go to the same places because of the trusted experience or the pricing experience or something like that. It has nothing to do with any buyer's journey. So the only journey that exists is the seller's journey, which is created in a business world often by sales and marketing, right? That's what I'm talking about. So there's no such thing as a buyer's journey, in my opinion.
Interesting. So it's the seller is the Sherpa of the journey. Then.
Yes. And it's our journey. It's like to use your analogy, right? Like the Sherpa knows the best way to the top of Mount Everest, not just because it's been climbed before, but for decades and decades and eons, the Sherpas already knew it, right? So they were trying to provide the safest and best experience for the climbers. So that Sherpa is a great way to look at it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad I got it, which I love. So we talk a lot about pipeline and sales efficiency inside of the sales or the seller's journey, right? But let's dive a little deep about, describe a sales strategy that you've implemented that has increased revenue, or just conceptually. What's something that you made a shift in that increases revenue?
So one of the things that I make a shift in is around qualifying to authority, right? Like I think we all know it's a consensus buy, right? And there's always a committee. And particularly at the end of every first meeting or second meeting, we already know what's going to happen. They're going to take it back to their team,
Yep.
right? So I don't care who the decision maker is early on. So I would turn around at the end of a meeting. Let's say it's me and you, Brynne, and I'll say, "Hey, Brynne, this has been a great conversation. I'm willing to bet when we get off this call, you're going to take this back to your team. Curious, who's the most skeptical person on the team when you bring ideas like this to the team? And what are they typically skeptical about? Because I'm not getting to any decision maker until I get through the skeptic.
I love
And
that.
so sometimes the skeptic is the decision maker, but they would have never told you if you said who's the decision maker because they know to button up. But when you say who's the skeptic, they know. So that's been one strategy that I've really been pushing hard lately, because it's all about getting access to authority, not getting to authority.
I love that. All
Thank you.
right. I'm going to the next one, which I
Yeah.
think we'll build a little bit about this, but you talk about pipeline volume and velocity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I understand velocity, I guess speed to business, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Of course.
So talk about how you align volume appropriately
Mm-hmm.
and speed to market. Because, and I'll just preface
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
I'm asking this question is we talk about slowing it down,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we talk about slow down the process to speed up the outcome, right?
Yes.
Slow it down. But you talk a lot about pipeline volume and velocity. So
Yeah.
yeah, share your thoughts around that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of them. So one, by volume, what I mean is we always have a sales goal and we always say, oh, I need, which is a terrible number, 3x my number to get to my goal, which is never accurate, right? Just go for 10x. If you get to 10x, you're not going to have a problem, right? What we don't talk about though is, well, how much pipeline does that need to grow each week? How much net new pipeline do I need to have each week, each month, each quarter to get to whatever your goals are? So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the growth of your pipeline and paying attention to that, right? That to me is far more interesting than number of dials
Right,
or
me too.
talk time, right? I'm not saying you can't have those things as a backup, right? If the pipeline's not growing, well, that's where you're going to look. But if we see this pipeline growth, then that's helpful. Also, if we see our pipeline growing, we could measure that against dial because maybe, to your point, if we slow down the output to make it better quality, does the input of new pipeline growth
Right.
increase, right? And then to your point about velocity, like people often misunderstand that we hear that word velocity and we think faster. Well, and I agree 100% with you. Sometimes you slow down the velocity, right? So it's almost like let's talk about pipeline growth and throttling velocity,
Oh, I
right?
love
Because
that.
look at the beginning of the quarter or the year or the month, you could do a little slower in terms of what's in the pipeline. And as you get to the last week of the month or the last month of the quarter or whatever, that velocity might try to pick up a little bit, right? So it's not one's not good or bad. It just needs to be velocity appropriate
I
based on where
love
you're at. So
I love that. So one of the things that we hear all the time
mm-hmm,
is well, from leadership first, I'll start there,
mm-hmm,
is forecasting. My
mm-hmm,
rep keeps saying these things are going to close and they don't close, and then they get
mm-hmm,
ghosted and it's not their fault. And,
mm-hmm,
oh, my champion left and like all those
mm-hmm.
things. So how can a leader forecast better?
Well, first of all, we already know the excuses that our sales team give us. And in some cases, they're reality. They aren't excuses. So leaders need to step back and own up to the idea of were our goals even appropriate in the first place,
Mm,
right? Because if they
right.
weren't, it's kind of like, sorry, like because my guy left doesn't mean it's my fault that you chose the wrong goal, right? The other thing that I think that leaders need to do is we already know like, oh, the deal's going to push because they lost budget. We already know the deal's going to push because my champion left. We already know the deal's going to push because someone got promoted or someone's on paternity leave or whatever.
Right.
When was the last time any sales leader did any training session on, oh, if your person leaves, here's who you should talk to, right? Here's how you handle it. Here's what to say, which often comes back to multi-threading, right? It's a bigger issue. Why haven't our sales leaders taught us how to multi-thread more effectively rather than complain when our deal pushes because our sole person left and then blame the rep for not knowing how to be multi-threader? Dude, you're right there with them. Like,
Yeah.
stop whining. Right? So there's an wrapped around all this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people do it intentionally. I think it's human nature. Like I have done it. I think we all do. There's a lack of accountability when something doesn't go our way.
Sure,
Right.
we don't want to be blamed.
Right. And so leaders do that. CEOs do it to the board. CEOs do it to the leaders. The leaders do the, like that's what's
Right.
happening, in my
It's
opinion.
a cycle. So yeah, so that's that. I'm a big fan of multi-threading. I mean, LinkedIn for me is one of the best ways that we teach this, right? You get in.
Yep.
If you have Sales Navigator, there is a feature called Persona where you put in all of your decision maker, either function or title, and you get into the company and you click the little toggle and it tells you your 6.8 decision makers, right? Like whatever that
Whatever the new number is this quarter, right?
right. Challenger
Challenger,
customer, I think
right.
is 6.8, right?
Yeah, whatever Mr. Dixon says.
We're at 100% there, right? Yeah. Right. And I have the book behind me somewhere on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure, because that's one of my favorites. But anyway, so finding those folks, I'm going to ask and I have, what I train, but what are some of the things that you would say to a salesperson? They go, okay, you got one champion, one person that loves you. Now start to socially surround the 6.8. What are some things that you recommend so that they do multi-thread?
Yeah. So this is by the way, this is one of the reasons I asked for the skeptic, right? Because that's what I'm going to, and finding out what they're skeptical about. Okay, well, that's probably someone I need to sort of engage lightly, softly, right? I might say, great. In addition to the skeptic, what other parts of the organization are affected by this decision?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to be IT or security or sales ops or rev ops or marketing, whoever, right? Okay, well, then I start to look for those people, right? And then I would turn around and I would say, Brynne, look, every decision I know is made by committee. What's the easiest way, Brynne, for me to support you as you talk to these different people in the committee? Because Brynne, I don't ever want you to feel like a ping pong ball.
Yeah.
So if there's any department, you don't have to tell me who they are yet, Brynne. If there's any department where you're like, oh, someone in marketing is going to ask for this and someone in IT is going to ask for that, tell me. Like, I just, I'll give it to you. And just through that little bit of a communication, I can start to put the puzzle pieces together.
So how do you feel about educating that champion on here are the three things your marketing is probably going to ask?
So this is a great question because that's where I was going to head, right?
Okay.
And I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Dan, I'm asking you the question.
Okay. I just make sure, like, all of a sudden I'm going to jump into mansplaining mode and I'm trying to do less of that.
That's okay. I do a lot of mansplaining, so you
Okay.
can too.
That's awesome. So I think, you can also sort of lead the witness with some questions and saying, hey, Brynne, oftentimes, thanks for sharing who the skeptic was. Oftentimes, marketing is involved and they have these kinds of questions, and this department is involved and these people have these kind of questions. Does that work the same way with you? Because if so, I'll start getting you what you want when you want it. So we already know to a certain extent. So we can kind of lead the witness and still give the witness enough control to say, I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm not this, or no, that's too soon. All those are great answers. Those are green flags, even though they feel like red flags. They're green flags because it tells us we're headed in the right direction.
Right, we're not getting no.
Yeah, it means we're still in in the what do you call it, the pace laps, right? You're still behind the pace car on the racetrack. They haven't dropped the green flag. So, so I think those are ways to do it
I love
subtly
that.
and professionally. Now, Now comes the nuance. This is usually the next question is, okay, well, when can I reach out to them on LinkedIn? If I know it's these other departments and these other heads, do I go behind Brynne's back and reach out to them and connect with them? I don't know. Some people would, some people wouldn't.
I say
Would I?
no. I have my own opinion though.
Yeah. Well, so I think it depends, but I probably would.
Yeah.
However, if I didn't do that, I might go see if they're social on LinkedIn. I might just start liking their content. I might start commenting on things that have nothing to do with what I'm trying to sell, but agree or share a position or share a story. As they don't need to know that I'm engaged with Brynne in a conversation, right? But I could start to be social with them so that when the time is right, maybe I'm not totally unfamiliar with them. Like when they see me, they're like, why do I know that guy's name? So anyway, I'm curious your opinion. What is your opinion? Because
Yeah.
I've seen
I have
differently.
a formula.
Okay, good.
So you follow them very early on. You've
Mm-hmm.
connected with your champion, and before you're even talking to your champion, all you're doing is following them.
Mm-hmm.
When the time is right with your champion, you can say, hey, I have been following these
Mm.
folks inside of your organization, totally legit. When I connect with them, can I mention we're having this conversation?
Oh, I
And
love this.
I ask permission. I'm not asking permission to connect. I'm asking permission to name drop.
Right. Because you said when I connect with them, can I name
And
drop?
I mention that
Yeah,
we're having this conversation.
that's great. I like that. I think that's
And
a really helpful, subtle way to do it.
so most of the time I get, oh yeah, sure, great.
Yeah, yeah.
So my connection now, which I think has a huge success rate, is so Richard, you connect Richard. Janet and I are talking about X, Y, and Z. Your name came up in our conversation, and she gave me permission to reach out and tell you a little bit about what we're talking about, to loop you in. Right. And so
I love it.
now, right now I've got, so Janet said, sure, you can mention we're talking. I'll even say, here are the 7 people that I'm following when I reach
Mm-hmm.
out. So your names have all been mentioned, right? So Richard, when I was talking with Janet, your name came up in conversation. Here are the things we're discussing, and I want to loop you in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right,
Who doesn't want to be looped in?
I agree. I agree. I have a generational question, right? So
Okay.
I'm Gen Xer. By the way, people who are watching, I fell and have 2 black eyes. That's why I'm wearing sunglasses. I'm not that cool.
And the people that are
Um,
listening, he looks perfectly fine.
thank you. Generationally, I wonder how that plays out. Because if I think about the 18-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the 22-year-olds, it's late April 2024. A bunch of kids are going to start graduating from college this year.
I have 21-year-old twins that are.
There you go. All right. So they're going to come in with a very different opinion of social than what you and I have done. There's still this sort of hands off, don't upset anybody in social, right? And they have a whole other idea of what social's like. And I don't know that it's changing tomorrow, right? But
So
in 5 years, will people care if someone connected with them or not? Will their generation care if someone
yes,
can? You think?
100%.
Well, tell me.
So they trust their network versus any ad. Like we Gen Xers will watch a Miller Lite ad, and all of a sudden we go to the ball game. We're like, oh, maybe I'll try a Miller Lite. They don't trust ads. They don't trust anything except their friends and close network.
So that's my point, though. Won't they just, if they're in a deal cycle, unless they're
Right.
told not to do it because that's not appropriate, wouldn't they just connect with these other 7 decision makers? Because that's just what you do. That's just social to
No,
them.
but no, because you're coming in cold. So this is, in my opinion,
Okay.
it's all opinion. I have no study on this.
We need to
right?
have your kids on here. I want to ask them this question.
I will. And actually, my son is Rutgers business, and he will be in a he's going to be a financial advisor, which is sales, right? So,
Right.
he's got a great internship with 1847 Financial. I'm very excited for him. Anyway, moving on. So I believe that a cold call will never land with the next generation, ever. A cold connect, and if I name drop without permission, I will lose credibility faster than you and I. So
Hold on. So, because I disagree. I think your son will be able to say, "Oh, we're both connected to Bob or Sarah or Rebecca. Therefore, I thought we should connect in that generation." If he's going up the chain, if he's going up market to someone who's 35 or 40, might not work. 20 something, just like him, I don't think they're going to care.
So I'm going to tell he is in a few weeks flying to Georgia to meet one of his best friends that he's never met before because they've been gaming for 7 years.
Right.
And it's one of his best friends and he's never met him. So
we're in Georgia. I'm from Georgia.
He's flying into Atlanta. I don't even know because he's 21 and he booked his own flight.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
Don't use your credit card? Just check.
No.
Oh, good for him. Wow.
He is finance. Yep.
He's off the payroll.
He's off the payroll. I mean,
there you go.
Other than that, we paid for college. He's off.
Well, sure.
But so that being said, I know we kind of went on a tangent. We do have to cut. No, that's okay. This was so fun. I think relationships get stronger and stronger and stronger. So I believe getting permission to name drop. We are talking about this subject. Your name came up. She said hello, right? She's like, so I'm coming in saying that your company is already talking to me about this solution and I want to loop you in because you should be looped in. And it's not, we're already having this conversation. So we'll see. And I believe that my son will learn and do and we'll let you know in 5 years how that turned out.
Yeah.
It's 3 years.
It won't truly change until they get in charge. Right? Like it won't.
Yeah, but I still think that relationships matter more to them. They're more skeptical on advertising and cold calling. They just are. I mean, they don't even pick up the phone when I call, they text back.
Oh, I believe me. I'm right there with you. Like if I were on Snapchat with them, that's how they call me. Right? Like that's the only way they'd ever call me. So.
Yeah, they're an interesting bunch, but they're smart. They're smart. They're man. The ones I know are incredibly smart. So we're gonna wrap this up with sort of two last questions. The first one is, what question did I not ask you that I should have?
Right.
And then the second one will be, how can people connect with you? So you can do that.
So I'll do the second one first because it'll give me a minute to think about the question. But easiest way to get a hold of me is Richard Harris. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the one with the little trademark by my name. Yes, I know you can't trademark your name. Please stop telling me. I put that up there like in 2012 before everybody else figured out if you could use emojis in your name in LinkedIn. So that was my first emoji. So that's why that's there. You can also get me at 415-596-9149. 415-596-9149. It's the same cell phone that my kids ignore, just like Brynne. So I know it's my real phone number. You can always text me and let me know you heard me here, so I'll answer the phone. The question you didn't ask me is, it's a long answer, but what is the effect of AI in sales now and in the next 2 or 3 years? That's probably the one question.
We've got a minute and a half. Go.
Yep, easy. So right now, AI is meant to enhance your capabilities. It shall not replace you. It will at some point, in a sense that we're already being affected and conditioned and trained by Amazon and the whole online experience to buy as a buyer at a consumer level, right?
100%.
And we've even gotten to the point where we'll go buy $100,000 car online before you even test drive it. Not everybody, but it's not uncommon. We have a
Carvana near us. It's a vending machine for cars.
Totally. So So we're already being conditioned at the B2C level to make it at the B2B level. And at some levels in B2B, it is already happening, right? Particularly in the developer world. Like if you build apps and tools and stuff like that to that community, they don't really want to talk to salespeople. So I think it's there to enhance us for now and not replace us. I do think if you're in sales now, you want to get as much skill and experience to get to mid-market and enterprise sales sooner than later, as fast as you can, because that'll be the last place humans are replaced, right?
Mhm.
A $500,000 deal, $1 million deal isn't going to be decided without human to human conversation, right? Right now, you could probably say that up to about maybe 50 to 100K. People might make a $50,000 decision without talking to a human, but I'm not convinced that that'll happen yet.
Maybe actually on a consumer level, but I don't know on B2B yet.
I think it's like it goes back to that developer world. Like if I'm building something that's a dev tool,
I bought my house sight unseen.
Yep.
Because it was in the middle, it was the end of the pandemic.
Yep.
It was the exact place I wanted. It was the right square footage. My daughter, who's the realtor, walked around, I guess sight unseen with FaceTime, and I said, put in a full offer.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That's it.
And I bought it before I saw it. So
yep.
So with that said, because we do have to kind of wrap this up, this was great. Maybe we'll do it again, or maybe we'll have you on for masterclass because you have such brilliant thoughts and strategies. But I thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know where to reach Richard Harris, trademarked. And thank you all for listening. Don't forget when you're out and about to make your sales social.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.